Please stand for the pledge. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
All right, at this moment, I'm going to turn the program over to Mr. Pruitt, who's our music teacher in the New Black course.
I think they deserve another round of applause. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, students. Thank you so much, parents, for having them here. That was wonderful. That second song was actually kind of got soothing at the end. I was like, this is so great. Thank you, students. That was great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for Miss Ivory for sharing them with us.
Madam Chair,
It's always the best way to start a meeting. Ms. Smith?
I just want to say that, of course, I enjoyed the children. They did an outstanding job. But the interesting part about it is Mr. Pruitt writes his own songs.
Really?
So he
I
wrote
did
that
not
song.
know
Did
that.
you, Mr.
That was
Pruitt?
great.
Isn't that amazing?
I did not know that. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving forward with our superintendent spotlight.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, segueing from that, I think it's awesome to see our music programs in the district. We're one of the few districts that has elementary music in every school. So kudos to the school board for making that happen. On the other end of the spectrum's high school. And tonight we want to continue our videos on career and tech ed. And so tonight we have a video from Fort White High School and their health occupations career and tech ed program.
I'm Ms. Kirby, and I teach medical skills and services, and I teach anatomy and physiology. I teach the underclassmen and help to prepare them for our certified nursing assistant program. Which
And maybe we
offers
don't.
a certification as well as EKG certification. So I try to prepare them for Ms. Lane.
Hi, my name's Jessica Lane. I'm one of the health science teachers.
I apologize. It's a really good video. I can email it to all y'all if you'd like me to email it to
It's
you.
a really good program.
Yes, it's a great program too.
Mhm.
Patrick wasn't supposed to be here, but we had technical difficulties, and so
Here at Fort White High School.
we
In my
appreciate that.
class, students enter in at 11th grade and they take Health Science Foundations. This is an introductory course into all of healthcare. We also have an affiliation agreement with Santa Fe College. So at the end of my course, these students are able to CLEP a college class and receive potential 3 credit hours for HSC 1000 through Santa Fe College, Introductory to Healthcare. In 12th grade, the students can take CNA, Certified Nursing Assisting, as well as EKG. So potentially these high school students can graduate with 2 healthcare certifications. Another certification that we offer here is CPR, first aid. So our students have the basic life support certification through the American Heart Association. Our students are also very involved in HOSA, the Organization for Future Health Professionals. This year at regionals, we had 11 of our students here at Fort White High School qualify to attend the State Leadership Conference in April, which is a record high for Fort White High School since my time.
All right, that's it. We just want to continue to emphasize our different programs in the district. Career and Tech Ed, last board meeting, we had Anthony Newton and the Culinary Arts at Columbia High School, and a great video. And so we're just going to continue to spotlight different programs. So board members, thank you for your allowing me to show this video, and thank you for what you do to help our Career and Tech Ed programs. That's all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. At this time, I'm going to make a little bit of a change in our agenda. I'm not going to have any comments on our action items at this time. I'm going to come back to that after our presentations, because we're going to have 2 presentations, one on the National Merit Scholar finalist, and then we're going to have a presentation on our Guardian program. And I think maybe that will give some people some information on the Guardian program before the comment. So maybe that will answer some questions before people come up and comment. So we'll move those comments to after the presentations.
And Madam Chair, it will
Yes.
be before any action is taken by the board.
It'll be before any
That's the
action
that's
is
the
taken,
legal
but
point,
after the
everybody.
presentation,
Right.
so give people some information that might answer some questions before they comment. So don't let me forget to do that. So at this time, we will, I'll have is everything in order on the agenda with
Yes,
that change?
yes, ma'am, with the addendum.
So with those changes, do I have a motion to close and adopt the agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of closing and adopting the agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. The agenda is approved. We'll move on to our presentations. Our first presentation is a recognition of our 2 National Merit Scholar finalists.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, parents, students, and other honored guests. Tonight, I'm here to recognize the amazing achievement of a couple of our brightest and hardest working students ever in the Columbia County School District. The 2 students we are recognizing tonight were recently named National Merit Scholarship finalists by the College Board. The national program is basically an academic competition for recognition and scholarships that originally began in 1955 Entry and eligibility begins when the students choose to voluntarily take the College Board's PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test in their junior year. Of those who participate, only the 50,000 highest scores nationally, or 3% of the highest students nationally, are officially entered into the competition. After taking the test last year, we had 2 Columbia High School students, now seniors, continue through the ranks of the competition based on their performance alone. After both have been named among 16,000 semifinalists across the nation in September, these students also then met all of the requirements to be elevated to the status of about 15,000 finalists who are being officially considered for the National Merit Scholarship Awards. These additional requirements to reach their current level in the competition included the schools submitting proof of their high academic performance in all grades and subjects, the students writing an essay, a school recommendation by their principal, as well as taking the SAT or the ACT and scoring in the highest percentiles possible. Out of the 15,000 finalists, approximately 7,250, or a little less than half, will be chosen for the final scholarship award, with notifications scheduled to start taking place sometime this month. For perspective on these numbers, about 1.5 million students enter the competition each year nationally. This means that these 2 finalists for the district now represent the top 1% of students in the competition. If they were to be selected for the final awards this spring, that would put them in the top 0.5% of all students in the competition, which is 0.005%. Basically. After attempting to do some research, we were able to determine it's likely been about 18 years approximately since we've had a National Merit Scholarship finalist. While we have had several commended students and some semifinalists over the past several years, it has been a long time since we've had finalists recognized, much less 2 of them. So we think it is appropriate that we single them out for special recognition tonight. Although just being finalists has made them eligible for numerous scholarship awards already, we wish them the best of luck in hopefully being chosen for the final awards, which would include a $2,500 scholarship, as well as numerous other scholarships offered by various national and international business organizations and corporations. This is in addition to many private and public universities across the nation that offer substantial special scholarships to National Merit Scholarship students. And if either or both of these students are chosen, we hope to welcome them back again for a future board meeting to recognize them for that further recognition. And one of our students, I believe, has a tennis match tonight, and he was going to try to make it, but he couldn't predict how long that was going to take or when he would play. So he was going to attempt to be here. We'll try to recognize him at next board meeting, and if he's able to make it then too. But as it stands, it is a great honor that we recognize Nicholas Chowdhury, who's not here, and Logan Mears of Columbia High School's class of 2023 as National Merit Scholarship finalists and as outstanding representatives of the Columbia County School District, Columbia High School, and the community.
Yes, we go. Go.
Congratulations. I know Ms. Hill said she remembers you when you were in kindergarten, and I remember when your mom was pregnant with you because I worked with your mom. So, but congratulations. I know your mom is very proud of you. I know your dad is. And that is, wow, what an accomplishment for all, we're all proud of you, all of Columbia County. And I wish the other one was here. I can't wait. I know he'll be at another one, but, you make us proud. So congratulations. So. All right, moving on to our next presentation, and I'm not sure is that you? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Worthington.
Madam Chair, board members, and members of the audience, tonight I am asking the board to approve allowing administration to move forward with developing board policy and working on different models of how, what the models look like in the Guardian programs all over the state. not asking for a vote to approve it, just asking to allow us to move forward. I just think we need to begin discussions and what an analysis would look like of where we might want to go. If approved tonight, board policy, model recommendations will be back for the board approval at a later date. So I don't want anybody to be confused. It's here. We're not approving, I'm not asking the board to approve any decision tonight on whether or not we're having the Guardian program. I'm asking to begin discussions for two reasons. The first one is very obvious. We want to do everything we can to keep our students and staff safe. The second one, not quite as obvious, is that we have to meet the law that says we have to have an SRD or a guardian in all our schools. And while we're doing that right now, and the sheriff's in the back, and he's doing a great job of providing that, that's who we partner with, the laws are changing. And I think we're going to see laws change so that we have to have guardians in after-school programs and events outside of the school day. Not today, but I believe it's heading that direction. And the reason why I want to start having the discussions is because we need to be prepared. And so finally, I just want to say this, because I know there's a lot of people out here. I want to make it perfectly clear. 6 years ago, I sat here and said that I did not believe we should ever arm teachers. I still feel that same way today. It's my personal opinion, but as superintendent of schools, I don't always and don't get to say my personal opinion very often, but tonight I am going to say that. I do not want to arm teachers. But with that said, there's two models. There's the model of arming teachers, which I do not want to do, but there's also a second model where we can hire security officers to partner with our school district to help with our resource deputies. So that's kind of the model that I want to move forward to discuss, to look at policy changes, to look at what they're doing across the state. There are models across the state. I know two for sure, Wakulla and Pasco County are both using this model. That's the avenue that as superintendent of schools, I would like to go down. But I just want everybody in this audience to be perfectly clear. I do not believe that we should arm teachers. And so I'm not presenting anything to you tonight to say, let's arm teachers. I also want to say this, everything we've done so far in the first 5 years of this program, partnering with the Sheriff's Office, has been pretty spectacular. We believe completely that the true model that we should have for protecting our students is having an SRD in every school. And I want that to always be the model that we use to go forward. But I do believe that as times change, we need to be prepared in case legislation changes where we have to have guardians and after-school programs at beta meetings, and I can't name all the things we might have to have them, but in case we have to have them. So I've asked Ms. Tatum to come tonight to do a presentation on what the guardian program is statutorily. So she's going to go over that, and then we will entertain. We've got 3 people that have filled out forms to speak tonight, and there may be others. So Ms. Tatum, if you would at this time. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board, Madam Chair, Mr. Carswell, and members of the audience. Tonight, I just thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share what this program is and explain a little bit of the details that might not be heard from the whole community. So hopefully after this presentation, you'll be able to have some more clarity on what this program could look like for Columbia County or not. So this is just like Mr. Carswell said, just the presentation to discuss even do we start this program or not. Okay. On February 14th, 2018, a gunman entered Marjory Stoneman Douglas and was able to take the lives of 17 people in the school. One of those was Coach Aaron Feis, which is now what our Guardian program is named after, Coach Aaron Feis Guardian Program. In Senate Bill 7026 and 7030, these bills were established after that shooting. These explain the powers, the duties, and the obligations for what a Guardian program would look like. So if you'll allow me the opportunity to just go through these slides and kind of share with you a little bit about what it does. The sheriffs are tasked with helping the school board and charter schools and providing access to the Guardian program. A certified guardian does not have the authority to act in any law enforcement capacity except when necessary to prevent or abate an active assailant. in the bill, it also talks about if the school board or charter board governing board votes to implement the Guardian program, the sheriff will provide the training either directly through his office or with a countering office that has already established the Guardian program. The school board and the superintendent shall partner with law enforcement or security agencies to assign one or more safe schools officer at each of these events. The school board may implement any combination of the option I'll be sharing next. So the first option is the school resource deputy, and like we've spoken, and most of you know that that is who fulfills the obligation in our district currently. We are very happy with this model. It has worked well with us and have no plans to change that whatsoever. However, I will present the other options just for your knowledge. So we also have the school safety officers. These are law enforcement officers that will that are trained by law enforcement agency. They are more of the model of a school district's police department. There are a couple of counties in our state that do follow this model, but of course we do not. Then Guardian definition. So on my page, the Guardian definition can be a school board employee or charter school employee personnel, including teachers who volunteer in addition to their official job. And as you've heard Mr. Carswell say, that is not the option that we are going to consider, but I felt it necessary to go ahead and present all of the options that are available. An employee who is hired for the specific purpose of serving as a school guardian, that's another option. You also can look at the last option would be to provide a security company that holds a Class D or G license provided by the security company and who has also completed the Guardian training. So trainings and screenings, what would that look like? So trainings would consist of 114 hours. 12 of those hours would be a diversity training. 132 of those hours would be a firearm safety. And we're going to break down those hours in just a minute in the different slides that we'll show. The sheriff does have the power to increase those hours if he feels necessary. So 114 is just the basic. And like I said, he can change that if he so wishes. Whoops. You'll see here where statutory requirements. The statute requires the state that there will be 80 hours of firearm instruction, and there must be an 85% pass rate. You'll also see where this is broken down. We have 8 hours of shooting instruction. We have 8 hours of active shooter and assailant scenarios. We have 8 hours of defensive tactics. We have 12 hours of instruction in legal issues. We have 16 hours of precision pistol. So there's a lot to be considered in that. And I think the bottom line for us is to know that we are training these guardians for not only how to shoot, when to shoot, but we are also training them to have the mental capacity to know that they can do this, that they can do the job that needs to be done. So it's a very serious position. Okay, the next one, that candidates must pass a psychological evaluation by a licensed psychologist. They must submit to drug test. They must successfully complete ongoing training, weapons inspection, firearm qualification on at least an annual basis. All right, and then certification, what would those look like? So if the Guardian program is approved and the sheriff's office will implement the program, certificates will be issued by the sheriff, and all records will be maintained in the sheriff's office. It will also look like guardians must be recertified annually, and their requirements are determined by the sheriff's office and by the Department of Law Enforcement. Funding. So there is appropriate funding available through DOE that the sheriff can get help with, and it would be funding that would help him in screening and training cost. He would write for those and then be able to submit. There's also a $500 stipend for any district employee or charter school employee or personnel or teacher who volunteers to serve as the guardian. All right, a couple of questions. Would guardians openly carry their firearms or keep them concealed? That is a district discretion. So upon what you guys talk about and how you feel, if you want to move forward with this program, this would be one of the questions that you would need to decide. Do we have them carry their firearm openly or concealed? Another question would be, would the public know which individuals are guardians? So that's another decision that you guys would talk about. How do you want to identify them, or do you not? You could have them wearing uniforms or plain clothes. So up to you. Lastly, are school districts required to participate in the Guardian program? No, a school district is not required at this time, but as Mr. Carswell said, we have been hearing noise about it's coming. They're going to put lots of pressure. They already are, honestly, putting pressure on us to do something different to help in our programs and after school and just extracurricular, all kinds of things. And so a guardian would help with that. All right. So at this time, I'd like to see if Sheriff Hunter would like to come up and share his thoughts.
I'm not sure how this board's going to react. Good evening, and thank y'all for allowing me to come up and speak. Of course, Superintendent Carswell and I have had much discussion on this topic for quite some time. And as you all well know, that I've been an advocate to have a school resource deputy in every school since I've been elected as your sheriff. And it's a shame that we had to have an event like Marjorie Stoneman down there to get it to get that crossed. But what I wanted to do, this program, this presentation she did was one of the first ones that came out. And I want to make you aware, if you're not already, that over in the legislature, as we speak, there's a bill that is going through called the Constitutional Concealed Carry. And on the backside of that bill, they actually filled in a lot of language on the statutory requirements for the Guardian program. And there's a lot of things on the backside of that bill also dealing with the concealed carry. So what I wanted to do was kind of give you guys a little bit of that current bill. It's already made it through the House. It's made it through made it through the committees in the House and through the Senate, and it's moving very fast. It's fast tracking. You guys know how that system works over there. This is one that's going to be signed by the governor. He's already made it pretty adamantly clear that he will do that. So what I wanted to do was just kind of update you on some of the items that were in that bill. And of course, Ms. Tatum said, you know, that the sheriff's going to be engaged. And I would like to say that I've got a super staff that has worked hand in hand with our Safe Schools program, you know, doing all of our school safety plans, working in conjunction with them. And I do want to point out Sergeant Ball back here. Y'all all know Sergeant Tim Ball. I've got Captain David Wingate back here and Lieutenant Howard Boethius, who oversee this program. But what's coming right now is that, of course, any school board that wants to have the Guardian program can do so, and the sheriffs are required to do that. If y'all wanted the program and I didn't want it, I can say I'm not going to do that. Then you can go to a neighboring jurisdiction or county, and they can actually provide the training for your guardians, and that would get real messy. I just don't think that would be very good, and I would not do that. I do want to uphold the wishes of this board. Now, I'm not in favor of arming teachers. I think teachers should teach and let law enforcement do law enforcement. And the reason being is there is a mindset in law enforcement of dealing with bad people and criminals. And I've been in the system for quite some time. I worry that we arm a teacher. They want to be focused on what they're doing. They want to do a great job. And to put a pistol in there or firearms in that classroom with the teacher, I just think that it could be problematic. That's not a 100%. There are teachers out there, and Aaron Fires, was one of those that probably would have been, he's a retired military person, but those are the exceptions. And that's going to be the hard part if you guys do decide to go down this road. The vetting on that, we're going to be heavily engaged with the staff here at the school board to vet those people. And they've actually got to go through background with the sheriff's office. They've got to do the psychological and so forth. But we want to make sure that we get the right people in the right place. One thing I would caution you about is on the school safety officer or the safe school deputies. When you start going down that road, basically you're going to create your own police force here at in the school board, and that model will cost you a lot. And it's been tried in a couple of other counties. They do have a couple in the larger counties, but those that in our closer proximity tried it, and they're trying now to get that back to the sheriff's office, and I believe that was in Clay County. So it's pretty expensive, and then you guys would be responsible for that. Those, although they can affect arrests and do all those things, if you had a crime scene or anything like that, then we still have to come out and process all of that. And there's a lot more trailer things that go along with having a law enforcement agency. So I would just tell you that. So with that said, in the new bill, and this is Senate Bill 150, just so you know, a private school in this bill can also request now, not just the charter schools can request the Guardian program. They have to fund it themselves, so they have to give me the money to train their guardians. They don't just get to pick them and say, this is the person we want to come out to our school. They have to go through that same vetting process. But Superintendent and I've talked, and we see this train coming. They're really pushing this thing hard. So if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. I've already leaned forward. I've tasked my staff with, we're getting people certified to be able to teach this curriculum and get the folks certified when we get to that point. And we'll be working on that over this next year. But as she said, the program is 144 hours for the Guardian program. Then the sheriff can add additional training to that. And I would not be comfortable with just doing a once a year qualification for them. There's some mental acuity that needs to go with the firearms. You've got to be familiar with the firearm, and you've got to go through a lot of scenario type training to be ready to respond. So, but in that there is a lot of things that are covered. It's heavy firearms, but then there's some legal aspects of having to carry that weapon with the responsibilities, and they have to understand what those are. I will tell you that a guardian would be no more than, if there's an event, they respond. They have no authority to affect any kind of arrest. They cannot engage if there's a fight or any of those types of things because of liability. And that's why I'm so adamant about having a fully certified deputy there, because they can intervene. And then y'all know the relationship that our school resource deputies have with the kids. And it's a win-win. So with that, that is their training. And she covered the different percentages. You've got a lot of human diversity in there. You've got some defensive tactics. The defensive tactics, the biggest portion of that when we were reviewing this was the weapon retention, and that's a big deal with us because if you do get into a situation where you have to grapple or fight with somebody, how to be able to properly retain your weapon and make sure that it doesn't get used against you or someone else. So those are some of the things. But I would be looking at more than one annual than the annual required qualification, which we do our best to do some additional scenario trainings with the deputies. And we also have some simulator things for shooting that we would be putting them in and getting them involved in that. She talked about that I would be issuing the certificates. I was just trying to hit some of the high points, but this is pretty well, there's a lot of language in here. This is pretty well coming. And, but you still have the ability to say, no, we were going to stick with our model that we have. And I would say that if you are going down this road, we need to make sure that whoever we, first off, how many do we want? And the vetting process needs to be very, 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 very tight. I will say this, that Belmont has already reached out to me, and they are really pushing hard. They want to have some guardians out there at the Belmont Academy. And they can do that and basically just send y'all notice that we're going to have guardians. So that's another reason why we're ramping up too, because I'm going to have to meet those needs should there be any private schools that want it as well. I mean, I'll answer any questions.
I just want to clarify to the board, we are not asking for this board to begin discussions about a safe schools deputy. That's having a Columbia County school law enforcement. We don't want that. What we are asking the board to pursue and begin discussions with is the model of having a school security person. Judy, am I saying that right? Okay, so I don't want armed teachers, but the second model is having a paid security person. That's the model, not a deputy. We want to keep a law enforcement deputy on all our campuses, like he's saying. The model that I'm asking you to let me start pursuing, not approve tonight, but just pursue, is the model of a school security person. And that would be, for instance, in Wakulla County, someone was telling me they were at a football game the other day and they had bright red shirts on that had Wakulla up in front, they had the Guardian on the back, and they were carrying a gun. And a lot like what your deputies might do in a in a situation where they're there, but they can't do everything he said. They can't get in the middle of a fight. They can't arrest anybody. They can't do anything. They're simply there to protect students and staff and to meet the law. And I think what he's saying is absolutely true. The law is going to get tighter. The law is going to make us have to require us to cover different events in the future. And it may not be this year, but he's correct. The bill that he's talking about is very fast. We've only been a week and a half into session, and it's flying.
Made it through all the committees.
And so I just want this board, and I know people are going to speak, I just want this board to know the facts of what my heart is. And my heart is not armed teachers. My heart is to look for the school security person, work with the sheriff's office. He's going to, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but it sounds like he's going to have to start the training program this summer, because there's going to be at least one private school that's probably going to want it, and there's already a Belmont Academy that wants it. I want to partner with him as he develops that training program and help and assist him in any way we can so that we all benefit from it. And so it's just something that we're looking at. This is not the action item yet. This is still just a presentation. So if you want to ask the sheriff questions, you can, because then we have people that want to publicly speak.
Chair.
Yes, sure.
Comparatively speaking, for your people that you train to become road deputies, how does the training for this compare to what you would do normally for one of your deputies before you turn them loose on the road?
It's 144 hours of law enforcement training, and they go through a controlled, well, it's a brick and mortar academy. And there's a lot of things that are covered in that. And I can tell you now, in that 144, there's a lot of, that's just the basic, excuse me, I'm sorry, 770 hours. I'm sorry, I've got figures mixed up. It's 770 hours of the basic recruit class. And in that, I mean, they go anything from intro to law, physical fitness, communications, legal, vehicle operations, serving your community, crimes against persons. I mean, there's a lot of things. Then you've got all of your defensive tactics, DUI stops, electronic weapons, less than lethal, training first aid, critical incidents, defensive tactics, and of course, firearms. Now, they have to pass a basic firearms course. And we fall under what's called CJSTC, which is the Criminal Justice Training Standards Commission. And they set the curriculum for law enforcement to pass the basic course. Once they come out of that course and we get them at our sheriff's office, they've got an additional 14 weeks that they have to do. We call it, it's the FTO program, but we call it the Right Seat Ride. They are actually with a certified training officer for 14 weeks to learn the craft. They start off riding with the training officer, and then as they go through all of their, and every day they have what's called a DOR, it's a daily observation report, and it's filled out, and they go through everything they did well, and then things that they can improve on. All of that stuff is tracked, because when you have an incident with an employee, I can tell you right now, the attorneys, no offense, but the attorneys are going to dig, and they're going to dig deep, and we're required to keep all those records for 55 years on those officers, because when they get involved in something, they pull all of their training records, and they scrutinize those. But we do the 14 weeks. In that time, it's not just one FTO. We mix them up because we want them to learn traits from different officers, different deputies. Different training officers, because, sometimes personalities don't work, but we try to do our best to make sure that we indoctrinate them to see things from different angles, to make them at the end of it. But along with that, they're required to have 40 hours, a mandatory 40 hours retrain in a 4-year cycle. So they also have to have a mandatory firearms training annually. So every year we qualify at least once with live bullets, and then we try to get them into the simulators where those are just the computer simulators, and in those we do a lot of scenario training. We do scenario training with live rounds. Also in there, when we get them, they have to get pit trained, which is a precision immobilization technique we use with vehicles for stopping people. And then they also have vehicle operations. I'm one of the few agencies that does annual vehicle operations, refresher. They spend a lot more time in those cars. They average about 38,000 miles a year on them cars patrolling this county, in each individual. So that's the other thing with the scenario training. It's hard to explain it, but there's a mindset. And the sheepdog and the sheep. And that's what we are. We're the sheepdogs out there taking care of the community. And you've got to have that mindset. We're looking for things that are going to be bad to thwart those things before they happen. You okay?
Yep. Any other questions?
Well, just one question for the superintendent. We have our own security people working.
Yes, sir.
How do they fit into the scheme of things going forward?
The security people would continue.
Are we done with the sheriff, so he can?
Sheriff, I'm probably done with you. That's probably.
Please don't say that. I want to hang around a while.
I never get a chance to say that. But she gave me the opportunity.
Thank you,
Thank you for your presentation.
I just didn't want you standing there
That's fine.
unnecessarily. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thanks, Sheriff.
I'm sorry. I just didn't want him.
In the
Well, that's
shadows.
okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So to answer Mr. Hudson's question, we currently have security personnel, and I don't want to confuse everything. Security personnel, they monitor the front gates. They also monitor, they walk the halls. They are there to strictly help the administration with discipline and to look out for anything that might come down the trail. These would not be those people. The model that I want to move forward is similar to them, but they would go through the Guardian program and they would be there just to be paid guardians. Retired law enforcement officers, retired military type people that had gone through everything he just said and are still, can pass all the certification requirements to get certified. So if we went down this road with this model, then we would have law enforcement officers on campus provided by the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. We would have school security officers, guardians that we pay for us, and then we would have just our regular security personnel that would continue. And the other thing that we're going to do, and I had a question today from someone, the metal detectors are ordered. It's on the agenda tonight to order some more. We're going to have those installed at every school. We will have to have personnel, and it would be those lower level security officer people that will monitor the metal detectors, because you can't have a metal detector if you don't have someone there with it. And so we're going to have a three-tiered security model if we choose, and you have a favorable opinion tonight, and we come back in a few months, 6 months, with board policy to go back before you to approve it officially. Here again, tonight, we're not officially approving anything. We're just approving to continue this discussion that Sheriff Hunter and I have had behind closed doors, just off the, just him and my personal opinions, but it's time to move it forward to get it out in the open, I believe, and that's why we're doing it. So to answer your question, there'd be three different layers of security personnel on our campuses.
No substitute on those three. It will be three. As you move forward with the plan, that's what you're kind of thinking along those lines. We wouldn't be dropping one of those.
No.
But we'd have, instead of having what we have,
Right.
we got two, we're going to go to three.
Right. Obviously, the law enforcement personnel provided by the sheriff's office would be our highest, because they are law enforcement. The next highest level would be the security guardians, because they would be there to protect from extreme danger. But the equally as important, and I don't want anybody to leave here today and think that the people that we have currently hired as our security people at our schools that wear the white shirts or red shirts or whatever shirt colors the school, they are equally as important, because they help the day-to-day activity at the school stay lower, and they keep the pulse of the school operating in a great way, I guess is like a better word. So they're needed just as much as all three of them, although you would have to say law enforcement's that, and then the middle one would be our security personnel that if we go down that route. But I want everyone to know that the security, and we're going to find a new word to call all these people because they're too confusing, but the people that are there today, they are as important as any person in our district keeping our schools safe. They do a great job of identifying students, they do a great job of keeping their eyes open, and they do a great job of helping us and our administration make our schools safe. So it would be a three-tiered approach if we go down this model.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just a clarification, this not on the Guardian, but the metal detectors, I've been at 3 schools recently that had the metal detectors already installed. So there's still some that we have not installed.
Yes, ma'am, and that, we're working on that tonight. You're going to approve some more metal detectors to install. Where we have installed them, we did not have to hire an additional personnel. They're mounted where people can walk through them, and there's already a current person sitting there. And so the ones that are going to be installed hopefully soon will have to require some of that lower level security officer person sitting there to monitor the metal detectors, but they're coming. But I want to, while we're talking about this in safe schools, this board's done a fantastic job of single entry points, of putting fencing up where we needed fencing. And so I think we've done a great job of keeping our schools and doing things, everything we can. What we're asking tonight is to keep moving forward and continue to try to make our schools safer by looking at what the sheriff's going to be providing with the Guardian program training, and then making sure the model that we pick is the one that is tested true and not making anyone uncomfortable with a job that we ask them to do. And so I just think this is the right thing to do, but the metal detectors are coming everywhere, but we have to phase them in to try to balance it, so.
I just noticed them.
Yeah.
At 3
I
visits
went
recently.
through them, and I set it off when I went through it and had to go back through and strip down. Anyway, it was part of it. Are we ready for speakers,
Yes.
Madam Chair? Mrs. Beckman would like to speak about the Guardian program.
Ms. Beckman?
Ms.
Okay.
Bachman, I'm sorry. I'm
Bachman,
sorry, I
okay,
should have
that's-
known
you can
that.
go there. You'll state your name and your address. There is a 3-minute timer here, so you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, y'all can hear me?
Yes.
All right, Amber Bachman, you said address as well, right?
Wait, turn that.
Sorry.
Just your name and your address, and
Okay.
you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Amber Bachman, address is 151 Southwest Rose Point Place, Lake City, Florida, 32024.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so I heard everything. I rewrote my notes. Firstly, I want to state there's no evidence showing that an armed teacher or guardian has ever stopped or deterred a school shooter. In fact, the evidence shows that having trained and armed adults in schools leads to more accidents, and there are many cases of students being accidentally shot in the classroom by such trained adults. There's no statistical data to support this. Saying this could have happened is not statistical data. And can you afford the lawsuit when this proposed guardian accidentally shoots a student? Secondly, this district has not pursued more conservative avenues before jumping to this extreme. I hear Mr. Carswell saying he expects this to be required, but what I'm actually hearing is that SRDs already meet the current and potentially future law. If the district wants to actually increase safety in our schools now, then I urge you to finish installing the $90,000 of metal detectors you purchased and proceed with ordering more and manning them with staff and admin you already employ. As I understand, this district only employs 2 mental health professionals, and we currently only provide the state-mandated mental health education. We currently are doing the bare minimum in every arena except employing SRDs. Your focus should be on using the tools you've already paid for and beefing up the avenues you're slacking in, not hiring vigilante citizens to be mall cops. I heard the statistics Ms. Tatum shared. What I'm hearing is this is someone with less accuracy than an SRD. I like our SRDs. I trust them. I do not trust a mall cop. As a parent, I do not want my child in school with someone with only an 80% pass rate. I want a professional law enforcement officer. You say you don't want to arm teachers, and so I won't argue on that point just yet. I'm a teacher, and I can tell you we have enough on our plates. We're overworked and underpaid. But if this conversation changes, I guess I'll be back here to tell you my thoughts on it. It sounds as though this is a cheaper alternative to what we're already doing. I urge this board and Mr. Carswell to back out of this conversation and turn your focus on the proven methods of school safety. I trust my SRDs. I trust the law enforcement response we get every time there is a lockdown at CHS, when 4 fights break out in a day. What good is a mall cop who can't break up these fights? I do not trust someone with a fraction of the training bought for a fraction of the price. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bachman.
Next, we have Joshua Garner, followed by Lenore Johnson.
This is just on the topic of what we just spoke about, correct? Joshua
Just
Garner.
remind you, you have 3 minutes, Mr. Garner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Joshua Garner, Southwest Jamestown Glen, Lake City, Florida. As stated, I really appreciate the comments. I know the newspaper has had a lot of hype recently about guns in the classroom, and it's probably been flying off the shelves with those newspaper sales. But I really appreciate your words and Mr. Hunter's words that teachers do not need these guns in the classroom. That's the last thing. And as I mentioned during the last meeting, is the mindset that someone would have. There would be no right answer. There could be nothing correctly done, whether someone shoots an assailant or doesn't. I feel like hindsight is going to mess something up where, as she mentioned, a lawsuit could imply. I definitely agree with the fact of doubling up on SROs or the actual sheriff's officers. I don't see why we would go through a separate program of, as Ms. Bachman mentioned, less qualified personnel, albeit probably less at a cost, but doubling up on sheriffs. And again, I don't understand why everything is all sheriff. Maybe that's another conversation I'd love to have with somebody, is why do we not have city police officers in some of the city campuses, just because? With that being said, obviously this is just preliminary information. There's a lot more to come out, and obviously your hands are going to be tied by the powers that be above you, and that's got to be respected as well. But I highly, highly suggest we focus on trying to gain more sheriff's deputies involving police departments and creating super qualified people that have all of the capacity. I mean, 700 and something odd hours of training versus 144 is a mighty big difference. So with that being said, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Garner.
And the last person that filled out a form was Mr. Johnson, former school board member. He may not have wanted me to say that.
Mr. Johnson, I'll just remind you of 3 minutes.
Well, good evening, board, superintendent, and the audience. I just think that we are jumping the gun, you know, because it's so many things that we can do that is in the preventive mode, as opposed to now trying to stop an event in progress, which is engagement. I think teachers ought to be spending their time in becoming better teachers than better shooters. I think that we live in a society where litigation is almost glorified. I mean, if you pay attention to television, everybody's on their TV. Now, you know, file your suit, I can handle it. Well, what about the liability that is involved in this? Are we the district that can afford to deal with multi-million-dollar lawsuits when you're talking about the loss of life or some other child being injured because somebody didn't shoot quite straight enough? There's too many things that can go wrong. The sheriff has already said law enforcement are required to complete 720 hours of training. Are we going to ask somebody to possess a gun with only 144 hours of training, which does not include some things that I think are extremely important? Like law enforcement is required to use some type of life-saving method, even if they shoot someone. Are we going to now ask this person to be trained in emergency EMT kind of responsibility? Teachers are placed in the classroom to be teachers. They're not placed in the classroom to be law enforcement officers or any facsimile of a law enforcement officer. In addition, I think that we need to use people who can really survey social media, because most of these kids that are doing shooting, they always tell on themselves. We need someone who's trained in the ability to spot those situations in which a child is even thinking about shooting someone else. In addition, are we able to provide the psychological and physical fitness for an individual who perhaps is put in a compromising situation where the gun might be taken from them? And then we really got a mess, because we're putting more guns in an availability situation because teachers have them. Everybody is not going to be able to keep someone. Even law enforcement sometimes struggle with people who would incline to commit crime and taking their gun from them. So why we would want to put a teacher in that kind of situation? I just think that we're going down the wrong road for the wrong reason. I think we need to be teaching kids how to respect life. We should be teaching the sanctity of life as opposed to how to shoot someone. We got to rethink this altogether so that we do make the best choices for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Madam Chair, there's no one else that's filled out a form.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for your comments. We're moving on to our action items. Is there anybody else who didn't fill out a form who would like to speak at this time? All right, Mr.
Good evening, board members. Glenn Bowden, 1156 Northeast Baskin Norris Drive. I do share the views of all the speakers prior to me. However, if the board decide and the superintendent decide to pursue an option, I want to make the point that the diversity part of the training, me personally, means as much to the process as the training with the gun. It is important that the diversity training be at the top of the thing, and the person, if you go that way, should be bilingual. Given how many people in our community now speaking Spanish, can you imagine it be someone of a different language that's engaged, and this person can only speak English? If possible, I would think that. But I want to make the point that diversity, Mr. Superintendent, should be near the top of your list in terms of this process. I'm not advocating it. I share Mr. Johnson's view and the other speakers' view that we don't need teachers. But however, if you go that route, just place diversity at the near top of that training process is very, very important. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Okay, now we'll move on to our action items. The first action item is to approve our personnel items. There are items on the agenda and the addendum. Are they all in order, Mr. Carswell?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I move we approve our personnel items.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the personnel items, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. The personnel items are approved. We're moving on to our next action item, which is to approve to start discussions with the sheriff and begin writing a policy in regards to the Guardian program. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion regarding this action item? With no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. We'll move forward with this item. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are all items in order, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, ma'am, with the addendum.
All items are in order, board members. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda
Second.
Oh, with the addendum?
with the addendum.
Thank you.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Consent agenda is approved. I guess I should have said Ms. Smith wasn't feeling well. That's why she left.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. Now, we're on to comments. Is there any other member of the audience who'd like to address the board? Mr. Garner?
Good evening. I will ask just as a brief moment, and possibly you guys may respect the wish of perhaps a moment of silence at the end of this speech. So here recently, there was a decorated Army captain, former Army captain, Mr. Hernandez, taught JROTC. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. They actually moved his family from where they were from to Lake City, specifically for this job. One of the things that occurred during the situation was the family happened to be one of the last people to find out about the situation. And it breaks my heart completely that that was the cause. And I just ask that we use a little bit more discretion when it comes to certain things like that. It's the wife of Mr. Hernandez was down at a teachers conference in Orlando and was not aware of the situation until she got back here, of course. But many of other people were completely, fully aware of a situation that occurred. I do have, actually, it's on my phone. I'm gonna move 1 second. I had one comment from. Now, this comes from Miss April Ott. She is very, very thankful for the support that West Side had showed Miss Stacy Hernandez, and that she is well. The concern was that private info was shared with many county employees before Stacy even made it back from the drive from Orlando. And so I wanted to make sure that was stated. The only thing that I'd seen posted anywhere was JROTC asking for prayers. Unfortunately, I did not see a school board post. I did not see a Tigertown post. I did not see anything else, you know, just in remembrance of such decorated Army Captain Hernandez. So with all of that being said, I do ask for 1 extra minute specifically in moment of silence for him and in regards to his family.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Any other member of the audience would like to address the board?
Maybe I'll place, I ask you, I don't know the protocol on what's going on. Name's Mickey Garrett, 998 South Marion Avenue. I'm a teacher. I noticed on your bids and purchasing that you have an approval for a termination of contract for the deaf and hard of hearing. Is that service still going to be
Yes. we would
provided
nev-
to the
yeah,
students?
We would never not have that service. It's just moving into a different vendor.
Okay, and the vendor is already in
Yes,
position?
Yes, we have overlap. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yes. And we don't normally answer questions,
Yes.
but that's a pretty important question. so we'll answer that.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Anyone else? School board members, Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Ivory want to tell you what a great job you do. Remind you of that. You know it, but we want to remind you of it. Good job, good presentation tonight, and thanks again for all you do. To our speakers tonight, we appreciate Mr. Johnson and the rest of you, Mr. Bowden, and the rest of you coming and speaking. Let us hear, we're good to hear from you. It's good to hear what you have to say. The school board has been, on as far as the Guardian program, and as far as safety goes, we've been proactive. And it was my goal back in the beginning of 2017 for us to be proactive and not so much reactive. We were out ahead of a lot of the other districts in the state, and we still are. And the point being is we're moving forward with discussions on this program. We want our schools and our personnel and everybody there just as safe as they can be. That parents shouldn't have to worry about their children being safe when they go to school. That's our job to do that. And this board and this superintendent has worked really hard at that, and we'll always work hard at that. Do everything we can. That's what I had to say.
Ms. Logan, no comment?
Yeah, so Ms. Ivory, thank you. I enjoyed watching your students last night as well at the Fine Arts Festival. I enjoyed watching our video again, as I told Diana a while back that I always look forward to those. Also, congratulations. I know that he is gone, and I look forward to seeing our next one, our Merit Scholar finalist. That is a big achievement for Little Lake City here, so that's a big deal. Ms. Tatum, Sheriff Hunter, thank you both for speaking tonight. I look forward for us to move along with these discussions of work. I also thank all the members of the audience that spoke tonight. I appreciate hearing your concerns. During my campaign last year, I made a comment that I always wanted to hear public input before any major decision, and I've had multiple phone calls, emails, and all of you tonight, so I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and concerns, and I look forward for us to move along with this.
Ms. Hill, I apologize. I just
No
jumped right
problem.
over you.
Again, Nikita, the program was wonderful. Thank you for the job that you do every day. We appreciate you. And if you would, please let Mr. Pruitt know how much.
He's right there.
Oh, there he is. Mr. Pruitt, thank you. That was wonderful. And last night, as Mr. Hunter said, that was wonderful as well. I enjoyed the program. Mr. Mears, if you will, please tell Logan again how proud we are. I do, as already been mentioned, I remember Logan starting kindergarten at Westside, and I'm so proud of where he is now. This is a big deal. It's a really big deal for Logan, for our district, for us to have two. I'm just amazed and so happy, and I hope to see many more to come. So please, again, congratulations to your whole family. What a wonderful achievement. And the CNA program, thank you, Mr. Carswell. The pre-nursing program, that is a great program. My daughter actually went through the program at CHS, not Fort White High School, and she became a nurse because of the influence of that program. And so I think it's a wonderful advertisement for the great job that our schools are doing. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you to all the speakers tonight. I appreciate your input. I also have received emails and calls, and I appreciate the input from the public. It's a sad day for me when we have to consider a program like the Guardian program, because I became a teacher many years ago to educate students. And so I'm sorry I'm emotional, but I realize the seriousness of keeping our kids safe, and I feel like we need to consider any and all options out there to make sure that our kids are safe. Thank you, Sheriff Hunter, for being here tonight, and I appreciate your officers coming with you, and I appreciate the working relationship that we have with the Sheriff's Office and the SRDs. I think I've heard from many principals about how there's such a wonderful addition to our school, and we appreciate that working relationship. And that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Carswell?
Want to thank Keith and New Black. Awesome. I miss that. We used to have elementary schools. We used to have elementary schools come every board meeting, and then COVID hit. So now we only do it at the beginning every month. So thank you to them. I do want to thank the speakers. Everything you said did not fall on deaf ears. We hear what you're saying. All we're saying tonight is that we need to have formal discussions about it, because like Ms. Hill just said, it's an option. And so we cannot just continue not to discuss it. So we're not saying we're having it. So don't leave here tonight feeling like you've lost or feeling dejected. And we heard everything about diversity. I think that's important, because we want to make sure we do it the right way. And that's why Sheriff Hunter and I have said 6 years ago, not today. Let's look at it maybe down the road. And so there's no decision tonight where anybody won or lost. Like Ms. Hill said, it's a sad day we're even discussing this. But at the same time, it's a long, drawn-out program type look. We've got to formally start looking at it, and that's all we're saying we're doing. So thank you to the speakers that came and everybody in the audience, because I assume that you had something tied to that. I want to thank Sheriff Hunter and his staff, but I also want to thank Ms. Tatum and her staff. She has just a fantastic staff, and the relationship that her staff has with Sergeant Ball and the sheriff's staff is second to none. The reason why we feel like we have a pretty good safe schools program is because of the relationships that we have and the communication that we have between the sheriff's office and our district staff through Ms. Tatum and primarily Sergeant Ball. So thank you to him. Congratulations to our two students. I can't tell you, I've been around since 2007. And I'm maybe 2 or 3 times earlier than this that we've honored one, and we're honoring 2. And word on the street is one of them's about a pretty good shot to move up the ramp. Don't want to jinx anybody, but it's just an awesome night that we can recognize 2 students that have achieved so much. And then the last thing I'll say, just thank everybody for being here tonight. We truly want to keep this transparent, keep it out in the open. That was evident by tonight. And spring break starts Monday. Praise the Lord. Let's get religious in here. Praise the Lord. That's all I got. Thank you.
Won't keep everybody here, but Ms. Ivory, it's good to you be here. It's good to see you, Mr. Johnson. It's been a while, but it's good to be here. The Guardian program is, I'm struggling with it too, Ms. Hill. I'm in a different position because I work with those guys back there as a prosecutor. So, when you put a gun in someone's hand for a living, you intend for them to use it, not to put on their hip and walk around with it. So I don't want to, I'm adamantly opposed to arming teachers. I have a sister who teaches, and I have a husband who's a principal. So I don't want any of our teachers to be guardians. The only reason I voted it is to possibly explore one of the other options. So I'm just putting that out there, not to arm our teachers. So just saying that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's a big deal. And it's a scary deal, but it's also scary to think that, our kids we got to keep our kids safe too. So it's a hard thing. It's a scary thing. But we have to keep our kids safe. So this is a start of exploring options.
That's right.
For me.
Right.
Myself and actually Miss Mears back there on the back, she's a public defender, I'm a prosecutor, and, we look at what those guys do every day, and it's a hard job, and, they do a great job. And, but anyway, this is just step one. But all of your concerns did not fall on deaf ears, so know that I was listening. And so, but we have to find ways to keep our kids and you who are in the classroom safe. And anyway, because that's the most important thing. Anyway, so y'all have a good night. If you're hungry, go to Gator Dockside. My son's serving there for tips for basketball. Thank y'all.
Mr. Johnson, you doing all right? I'm living the dream. Living the dream. You know, it's hard doing that as a parent, so.